All right, in this video, we're gonna go ahead and look at the power rule for positive integer powers of x. Okay, so if n is a positive integer, then the way you can take the derivative of x to the n is we take that n and bring it down in front, okay, and then you take the exponent and subtract 1. So this is something that I already alluded to when we talked about our introduction, but you take that exponent, you bring it down in front, and then you subtract 1. Okay. So let's go ahead and practice this rule. Okay, it says find f prime of x. Okay, so what it is I'm taking the derivative of the variable x. So I find where x is, and I see that this one has a 3. So I'm going to take that 3, bring it down in front. So it's f prime of x. So I can essentially ignore that 4 for now. So times the derivative of x to the third. Bring the 3 down, then it's x to that, and then I take 3 minus 1, which gives me 2. And then I would just simplify. I would say, well, 4 times 3, I know what that is. It's 12x squared. Okay, and you guys could jump to this conclusion right away. I'm just going to write it out for the first few times. Okay, let's go to b. Ooh, this one looks different. In order to do b, what you need to do is you need to rewrite it so that x is not in the denominator. Okay, so sometimes you guys do need to do a little rewriting. So in order to rewrite this, I would take and bring it up here. When I bring x to the numerator, I change the sign on my exponent, so it becomes -2. Okay, then my derivative, f prime of x, equals, it's going to be 3 times. Now I'm taking the derivative of x to the -2. I bring down the -2. x2, then I'll be careful. People make this mistake a lot. You would take -2 minus 1. -2 minus 1 would be -3. Okay. So then my derivative, just simplifying, would be 3 times -2. So I'd have -6 x to the -3rd. And then I would just rewrite this so I don't have negative exponents. This is being multiplied. This 6, even though it's a -6, it's really to the first power. So that's going to stay in the numerator. So f prime of x equals -6 over x to the 3rd. Okay. So there is our derivative for b. C, we have 7x to the 5th. I would take my derivative, bring the 5 down. I'm just going to skip to what it'd be. It'd be 7 times 5, so I have 35. Then I would have x to the 5 minus 1, 4. There's my derivative for that one. D, f of x equals the square root of x. Okay, in order to do this, I need to rewrite. Okay, so if you guys ever have fractions, you need to rewrite it. If you have square roots or radicals, you need to rewrite those as exponents. So whenever you take the square root, it's important to remember it's really x to the 1/2. It's like a little 2 there. Remember, square roots undo x squared, so it's a 1/2. So then my derivative of this, bring my exponent down in front, and then I would take and subtract 1. 1/2 minus 1 would be -1/2. And then I would go ahead and rewrite this. F prime of x equals 1 over 2, and then it's x to the positive 1/2 power. This is a fine answer, but the similar answer, or the equivalent, would be 1 over 2 square root of x. And I know you guys have been drilled over and over that you can't leave a radical in the denominator, but when it comes to calculus and your derivatives, totally fine just to leave it as is. So this answer is acceptable. If you want to rationalize it, you can, but it's not needed. So if you did rationalize, you times by square root of x. So I would have square root of x over 2x. Both answers are fine. Don't need to simplify though, or rationalize I should say. So that would be your answer here. Okay. E, once again, I see it's a fraction, so I must rewrite it in order to find the derivative. So it's currently to the first power. When I bring it up, it'd be x to the -1. So I'd have f prime of x equals, bring down my -1, so I'd have -1 times x to the, now be careful, it's -1 minus 1, so -2. And then I would just rewrite it. The -1 will stay on top, x squared. So there's my derivative for E. Okay, and then last, for my power rule, f, I have the cubed root of x squared. Okay, whenever you guys are rewriting this, if you have the m root of x to the n, you always take n divided by whatever's here. So it's x to the n divided by m power. Okay, so I'm rewriting. I'm not taking my derivative yet, so just rewriting. So it'd be x to the 2 over 3. Okay, so then my derivative would be bringing your 2/3 down. So I have 2/3 x to the, now 2/3 minus 1. Okay, that's -1/3. If you're not sure how to do that, you can, I'm going to write my work down here for it. It'd be x to the 2/3. You got to get a common denominator. So it'd be minus 3 over 3. That's our equivalent. So 2 minus 3 is negative 1 all over 3. The other option is, if you're like, I just want to make sure, type it in on your calculator and use MathFrak. So we would do 2 divided by 3 minus 1. Hit the wrong button. Minus 1. And then you'd see that's negative 0.3 repeating, or you can go MathFrak. Okay, gives you negative 1/3. And then from there, you guys, I would just make sure I leave it with negative exponents. So I would rewrite my answer. My final answer would be f prime of x equals 2 on the top. And then I'd have 3, and it'd be x to the 1/3. This is a great answer. The other answer that would work is f prime of x is equal to 2 over 3, the cubed root of x. Both are good and equivalent. Okay. So that is our power rule.